So welcome to part 3. This is our dynamic block lesson. This lesson is probably the longest one. If you're unfamiliar with how to draw in 2D, look at part 1, and part 2 gets into what blocks are. Let me first show you what we're going to create here. So this is a dynamic block. You have the ability to rotate the arrow. You also have the ability to change the state of the arrow. And we can flip the flag itself. We can rotate the arrow and the flag together. And lastly, we have the ability to take the flag and move it away from the section bubble. So it does quite a few things, and it's really not that hard to create. Try working through the video with me, and then use spacebar to pause the video as you go. This is a 15-minute exercise of a video. Once you've mastered it, there's so many things that you can do with dynamic blocks. So it's definitely time well spent learning the basics of dynamic blocks. If we type in the bedit command, we're going to get into our block editor. We'll just select the block we need. OK. Up here on the upper left here in the ribbon, we have the block save. And then we have the action parameters here. Each of these is a pull down. And so we can select different parameters here. And then we have our actions next door to that. And our actions consist of these operations. Over here, we have our visibility states. Now, when we create a visibility state, which I'll show you, we can select different states here. And then the last option is closing the block editor, which we'll use quite a bit. Keep in mind that this block editor works a lot like just the regular drawing window, where we can do different things in it. So let me just go ahead and pan this drawing up here so you can see what I'm doing here. So here you can see the insert point of the block where our X and Y axis is. The first thing I want to show you is how to stretch a block dynamically. Let's make this arrow stretch first. Just remember, for a dynamic block, you need to define a parameter and then an action. Both are required for each operation. So let's go ahead and select the linear parameter, which is the most popular one. Highlight over this if you want to read more about what each of these do. So let's select this one first. And then for our first point, it's going to be this point here at the circle. And our second point is going to be the end of that arrow. So that's going to be our distance 1 parameter. Now it's going to ask you for the number of grips. If you select both grips, you'll have a grip at the circle and you'll have a grip at the end of the arrow. But in this case, we only want a grip at the end of the arrow. If you choose 1, it's always going to be that last point entered. So let's choose 1. Now that the parameter is inputted, we need to finish this off with the action. So we'll come up here to the action, and we'll choose the stretch option here. Now it's asking us to select the parameter, so we're going to just click on this. And it needs the point to stretch from, so we're just going to select this point here. Again, we're using our object snaps, so make sure that you have the object snap set to endpoint. And now it's asking us for the first corner of the stretch frame. What we're going to define is this piece here to stretch down. And lastly, it wants to know the entities to stretch. This sometimes is always the same box, so we're just going to select the same box again. And that picks up our arrow and our line. It's also picking up this parameter here. So parameters are like entities. They can be selected and deleted and so forth. So once we're done with that, we can press enter. If we click on this, you can see that what we have is our stretch action. And this is the entity type, our stretch action. Now that we have this defined, let's go ahead and close the editor down. And again, we want to save the changes to the section bubble. So we'll click this. And now when we click this block, we're going to have this little arrow here, which is going to allow us to stretch this up or down. So that's essentially what we did by adding that as a dynamic object. Let's do something else with this block because we can just keep adding to it as we go. Let's explore the rotate command for dynamic blocks. What we're going to achieve is the ability to rotate this arrow around as we need it. So we'll go into the edit command again. And we'll select the section bubble drawing here. We'll choose OK. In order to rotate our arrow, we need to add another parameter. And the parameter will be rotation. We'll click this. We'll specify the start point, which is going to be the midpoint. And then we'll come out and we'll create the radius. Now the radius can be situated directly on the bubble, but just for clarity's sake, I'm going to place it right here. Now it wants the default angle. Let's leave it where it is, and then we can rotate that arrow around as needed. So let's just put here, and then we'll place the label location here. And the number of grips, we'll just say 1. And let's continue on with the action. So we'll come down here. We'll choose the rotate again. And then we'll choose a parameter here. And we'll choose the selection sets. And we'll select the hatch and the arrow next. And we'll press enter. Let's go ahead and test this. So we're going to close the block editor out. And let me pan over here. Click on the block. And now we have this new option here. Remember that radius circle that I defined? I probably should have defined it here, but in any case, we can rotate it around as needed. So we'll rotate it down here and repoint that block in there. You can see that I've left a line here from the selection, but this is good because I can show you how to go back and edit that. So we can go back into the edit again, select the block. Notice it's created this rotate action. I can actually drag this wherever I want and right click, choose action selection set, modify selection set. Just select this and press enter, and then go ahead and save our block again. This should work the way we want it. So next, let's explore how to incorporate this flag into our section bubble. And we do that by making one state visible and another state invisible. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's first take this flag and right click and just do cut here. And then we can go back into our edit again, select our block, and paste that clipboard into our block editor. So we'll go to clipboard and we'll choose paste. And that's going to bring in that flag. Again, this is just like model space, so we can make adjustments to the flag if we need to. I'm using a AutoCAD-like program called AViCAD. And in this video, I'm using a few of those tools. You'll also find those tools in AutoCAD as well. So if you're using AutoCAD, this video will be helpful to you in the same way. AViCAD is a AutoCAD alternative and costs about a quarter of what AutoCAD does. For more, you can visit cadavenue.com/avicad.htm. Now we're going to explore the visibility state. Define the parameter, which is going to be the visibility parameter. It's asking us to place the location of the parameter. This is going to be the location that you're going to see as an option in your block. So we'll just place it over here. We'll say we want one grip. Now, let's call this visibility like we did. Go to the properties palette and let's call this arrow flag. Now we have this visibility state here available in our ribbon. So let's rename this visibility state. Let's call this the arrow. And we'll create another one. Let's make this the flag. And we'll choose OK. Now we have this flag state up here and the arrow state. So in our arrow state, we only want the arrow to be visible and not the flag. We want to make this invisible, which is the flag. We only want to make this visible for the current selection, not all states, just the current state, which is set to arrow. For the flag, come down here. Notice the flag appears, but we need the arrow to actually disappear. So let's make the arrow invisible when the flag state is active. So we'll select the arrow here, and then we'll press enter. Again, it's just that current state flag. We want this to be invisible. Do we also want our distance 1 to be invisible? Let's make the distance 1 invisible as well. We'll press enter. All right. So let's move this flag into the bubble. Choose this point here. Now let's test this visibility. So let's choose between arrow and flag. And let's go ahead and test it in model space as well. So we click on this. We're going to have our visibility state here. We click on this. We'll go from arrow to flag. Let's add a couple more action sets. They're called action sets because, again, each has a parameter and an action. So let's do edit again. Let's come up here and toggle on our flag and make it so that we can move this flag away from the section bubble. So what we'll do is we'll call it here. We'll select linear. First point here. And for our second point, we can just place it right here. And then we'll just click. For our number of grips, we're going to just choose 1. And come up here into our actions. We'll choose move. We'll select the parameter. This is sort of important to understand because the parameter point needs to be the point that we're going to use to move it down. We're going to click on the down arrow here. And then we'll select the selection set like this. Then we can go ahead and close, save, and just test this out. So let's toggle into our flag state. Let me just zoom up here a little ways to demonstrate how you would do this. You're going to move it down this way, in this direction. But now if you wanted the arrow to be on this side, we'll need to rotate this around and then move it appropriately after the flag has been rotated to the other side. Now let's add just one more functionality to this, because when we select the arrow option, we really don't want this section arrow here. We just want the bubble. So let me show you how to go back and edit that. So we'll go into edit, choose our block. We'll go into arrow state, which is up here in the ribbon. Let's make the arrow itself invisible. So we'll select that. We'll choose the corner here. Press enter. Current. We still have this here, so let's make this invisible as well. We've got some overlapping going on here, so let's select this first. Then we'll select this one here. Then we'll make this invisible here. Close our block. So this will make it so that when we select the arrow, we'll just get this here without the arrow around the bubble. So just showing you that you can combine different things based on what you need. There's a couple issues with the way that the rotation works, because as we rotate the arrow around the circle, we need to rotate the flag with it. So let's make that edit. So we'll go into the edit, and we need to turn the visibility of the flag on first. We'll deal with the arrow afterwards because there's an issue there too. Now notice that we've got this distance parameter in here too that we need to rotate at the same time. Let's go ahead and click the angle parameter here. Right click and modify the selection set. Include this flag down here as well. Just put a box around this area down here. Box here. And then we'll choose enter. That will make that included. Let's test it. We have the flag state here. So that's going to allow us to take both of those pieces around like so. We probably should add an option to flip this flag as well. So let's do that. We'll make sure that this is visible. Hand down here. We need to add that flip state down here. We'll choose the flip parameter, and it's going to ask us for the mirror line of reflection. The first point is where the button's going to show up on our block. So we want that, let's put it up here. And then the second point is going to be here. And then the state location is going to be over here with one grip. So that puts that little indicator in there. Then we come over to the flip action. We need to select this parameter, enter, and then the selection set, which is just going to be these pieces here, enter. And we're going to go ahead and test this. We need to toggle into that state there. And now you can see the little button here that allows us to flip the arrow. We need one more revision, and then we'll be done with this block. And that has to do with when we're in the arrow state here, and we want to rotate that arrow around. That arrow is not included in that set. It's only included in the flag that's rotating. So we need to fix that. The edit. We'll go into the visibility state of the arrow. We need to make sure that arrow state is selected. So right click and action set, modify selection set. And let's just include this whole box here. Make sure that include the parameter in there. Enter. Now let's go ahead and close the block. Make sure this all works, which it does. If I wanted to make it so that instead of rotating at that 90-degree increment, I could make it rotate at 30-degree increments. Again, making sure that my arrow stays active. Selecting the parameter here, and then coming down into my angle type setting here in my properties palette. And I need to select this to either a list or an increment. Let's just use list for this. The list itself, we need to add those angles in. So 30 degrees, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270. I believe that's all the angles we need. And if we need to add more, we can always come back and add more later. So you can see they're all listed out here. Now it's just a matter of saving this. And now when we select the rotation, we're getting this kind of result. Make sure that your ortho mode is turned off. We'll just press F8. And that's going to allow us to hook to all those different increments around the bubble. You can kind of see them there in a light gray. That completes the section bubble. Make sure that you come up and save this as the section block so that you don't lose it. And then from there, you can always drag that file into a drawing, or you can select this drawing, do a Control-C, copy it, and then paste it, Control-B, into a new drawing if you ever need to use it. You can also optionally save it out to the tool palette, which is a great way to organize your blocks. Stay tuned for part 4. There's an extra bonus video in that one.